Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I like to discuss the latest reports that Boris Johnson has hired someone to explain his own policies to him. In this case, his campaign promise to level up the country. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So this was, I suppose, a little bit timely, really. I was only recently saying that a year and a half after Boris Johnson won a huge majority on the back of a campaign that promised, amongst other things, to level up the country, the parts of the country left behind, so to speak, we still haven't seen the blueprint of this policy. Well, it turns out that even Boris Johnson doesn't know what it means. So he's asked someone to work it out for him. A year and a half after making the campaign promise, Johnson has finally asked someone to find out what the hell he was banging on about. It's a little bit like Theresa May's Brexit means Brexit. I mean, it's obvious, isn't it? Brexit means Brexit. Oh yeah, how come it means 17 million different things to 17 million different people then? The way it's been reported, Neil O'Brien, who's a Tory MP, but who has worked in the Treasury in his time. He's from the civil service originally, and he's been tasked with finding out exactly what it means to level up the country. And then presumably producing a book with lots of colourful pictures in order to explain it to the Prime Minister. And this is important to the Conservatives because never mind the bonhomie they're going to have this week. It's going to be a good week for the Conservatives this week. But come the next general election, the pandemic should be very much a distant object in our rear-view mirror. Now, I don't know whether the Conservatives are going to end up with credit or rightful blame for what went on amongst the wider public. What I do know is that people do not vote as a reward for past service, but the promise of future ones. Now, that's worked for Boris Johnson in the past because it also means they don't vote against you because you did crap things in the past. They vote based on what you think you are going to do for them after the election. Now, Labour will hopefully get a lot better at shining a spotlight on Conservative failures and lies. And crucially, explaining how they are going to make things better. In 2019, Boris Johnson was able to admit that life under the Conservatives had been crap. Made no bones about it, but he managed to convince people it would be even crapper under Labour. What do you want, he asked, crap or even crapper? Well, we'll take crap, thank you. This is not a tactic that you can hope is going to be successful if Labour can stitch together a compelling, short and memorable series of campaign pledges this time around. No more Edstone, no more telephone directory of policies that even the front bench can't remember for interviews. A series of no more than 5 key pledges that focuses on what we need and certainly what voters really value. Now, it's possible that Labour will end up being crap still and the Conservatives needn't worry. Sure. They'll say that, sure, everything is crap still and it's getting crapper, but vote for us again and the sunshine and rainbows will be just around the corner. That sound you can hear, that's the unicorns prancing around the sunlit uplands. Vote for us again and we're nearly there. But they can't take that chance. They have to expect that come the next election, they'll be facing a rather more robust Labour Party with a clear vision being communicated to the people competently for the first time in nearly 20 years. So they're going to need something to showcase. Pandemic response is no good. As I say, even if the Conservatives end up in credit over it, which would be maddening, but let's say they do, because there's every chance it will actually be a blot on their record, but even if they do, it's in the past. Brexit is a useful stick to continue to divide people with, yes, but it won't actually have yielded any benefits to the ordinary voters. Besides, they also can't count on the fact that Labour won't use it as a stick against the Conservatives come 2024, even though the evidence is to the contrary so far. The only thing they have is levelling up. That was a big thing. But no sod knows what it means. And it is going to be really important in the so-called red wall around the north of England in particular. Because here's the thing, something like levelling up, it's not, you don't say that to people and they go, yeah, I don't know what that means. People will think they know what it means. It's one of those terms where you could instantly go, oh, it would mean this. It would mean more jobs in my area, or it would mean better jobs in my area, or it would mean, well, we don't have schools and hospitals crumbling away, or it means I don't have to travel 40 miles for these medical services, or it means that we can actually get social care for the elderly, for the vulnerable. It can mean different things to different people. This is no good. The Conservatives need to be quite clear about what it means so that they can say they delivered it. So Boris Johnson and the Conservatives have been quite open about the fact they're not going to win those red wall seats again if they don't come up with the goods. And if they don't win those seats, they won't win power. They have become so extreme now that they will have no allies in Parliament outside of their own party. They are no longer in a position to limp along as a minority government as Theresa May and David Cameron did. Nobody will work with them. They either win a majority or they lose power. It's now as simple as that. This is why I've said that Labour don't actually need to win the next general election, which is bloody handy because I don't think that's realistic. They just have to stop the Conservatives getting a majority, and then a progressive alliance will be able to push ahead with electoral reform. It will be messy, but a weak progressive alliance will be less chaotic than a strong Conservative majority. So the Conservatives need to show the people in those red wall seats that they have delivered for them. That will mean jobs. It will have to mean better jobs at some point than the ones they had. See, my question is this. If the Conservatives still don't actually know what levelling up even means, then there isn't a plan for it. That's the issue. There's no plan for it. I mean, that was evident anyway. If there isn't a plan for it, then no work has actually begun. If no work has actually begun, and likely won't until next year, because this O'Brien fellow's got to write the report and publish it, and something has to happen. Some decisions have to be made. So it's not going to be started until at least next year. How on earth do they expect to have anything to show for a policy that takes them 2 years to even work out what it means, with only 3 years left before the next general election? It will, of course, mean that it would be madness to even try and have an early general election, which is always the preferable course of action if you can get away with it. In fact, so far, money that's supposed to be used to level up has just gone to Tory areas in another massive bung. Some of the wealthiest parts of the country have been allocated deprivation funds, well, because they're Conservative areas. So the bottom line is that there won't be any levelling up. The Conservatives don't really want to improve opportunities for poor areas. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a very different Conservative beast that we have at the moment. This is a Conservative party that, despite all the talk about how Labour's spending plans were ridiculous, is spending way more and promising to spend way more. They're spending big. It's just that we know how it works. The money doesn't go to the benefit of people. It goes to the benefit of their donors. They've had ample opportunity to level up. They've had ample opportunity, and all they've actually done is increase inequality. The pandemic has accelerated that as well. The gap between the haves and the have-nots exploded over the past year. And this was a big spending year because we saw how they spent it. They could have spent it in a way that would have narrowed the gap. They chose to spend it in a way that blew it open. And they'll do the same again. Because it's not just that this is what the Conservatives do. This is what Boris Johnson's Conservatives do. If they were serious about levelling up, they'd have already had a plan in place. If they suddenly decided to be serious, they don't have enough time to delay in getting started, and yet delay they will. There will be no tangible expansion of opportunities or jobs come the next general election. Because even imagine this, O'Brien comes back with this proposal, right? You're going to get that split between northern Tories and southern Tories. The southern Tories from the normal Tory heartlands don't want tax rises to pay for spending. The northern Tories need the spending. They don't care about the tax rises. They know that their electorate doesn't care about tax rises if they're getting value for it. They want the spending. They want the regeneration. So you're going to have another little fight, and Boris Johnson will end up doing what he thinks is a compromise, which ends up with nothing at all coming out of it. The Conservatives, this is absolutely the opposite of what Boris Johnson, the current crop of Conservatives, do, which is to actually close inequality, to raise opportunities for people. So it seems to me that the focus will be on building a facade. How can we define levelling up? Because we promised to level up. So how do we define levelling up in a way that we can claim success without actually helping anyone? Because I saw the Financial Times reporting that the head of this levelling up unit, Sir Michael Barber, has been described as having a free remit to go around Whitehall, making sure that the civil service can deliver on the manifesto promises. So it's almost like the effort's going in. And this O'Brien fella is apparently a very serious man. You know, if you genuinely wanted to do it, you'd put someone like him in charge of it. So the effort seems to be there at the moment. You know, they said that Sir Michael will be shaking every tree in Whitehall, someone said, which presumably would be the magic money trees that Boris Johnson said didn't exist. But beyond the fact that the Conservatives will have wasted 2 years before they can even get O'Brien's report on what their own manifesto even meant, and it would mean an economic policy that is dead against the Conservatives in the Tory heartlands at least. Another thing that would surely sink the attempt would be Boris Johnson's fascination with centralisation. Because you might be forgiven for thinking that it was Dominic Cummings who was driving the centralisation of government policy, and sure enough it was. But the thing is, he's gone now and the policy remains. Levelling up the country will have to mean a regional approach. Now, Conservatives openly say this needs to be the case. They know it needs to be the case. What is going to be important for one area is not for another. But that means devolving decision making to where it's best placed to make those decisions. But Boris Johnson is a corrupt man, and corrupt men don't like having too many co-conspirators. He needs to surround himself with a small number of people that he trusts who hold all of the levers of power. Allowing decision making regionally would mean that people outside of his little bubble would have intimate knowledge about the flow of money and decision making. It would be impossible to keep anything under wraps. So I think this is going to be a case of Tories genuinely want this levelling up. You know, what they're doing at the moment is the way to do it if you genuinely wanted it. They've appointed O'Brien, who's a serious man and absolutely has the background to do this. But when it comes down to it, the government won't actually want to do what's necessary to achieve it. And you will not find a plan that will be supported by both the Northern Tories and the Southern Tories. Like someone endlessly watching cooking shows and would absolutely love to make some of these wondrous creations themselves, but you know, effort, or I don't have the right type of bowl or something like that. But there we are. Perhaps in another 6 months, Boris Johnson will actually know what levelling up means, and he can spend the next few years trying to work out how to make it look like he's done it when he's actually done nothing. A bit like Brexit, when the actual process will barely be off the ground. But those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. Hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.